Hello, it is Diane with Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com, and I am going to show an Emboss Resist Technique card that we had made for a class, and we were looking for some fall card ideas. I'll share some of the products. Most of these are retired products that I used for this one, trying to use up what I have and teach some techniques. So these trees came from Winter Woods, which is a retired set from a few years ago. The leaf that I used on the envelope came from Lovely as a Tree, which was a staple for many, many years. This Thinking of You came from Sheltering Tree for the words. And then on the inside, the deer I took from Rustic Retreat, and the I Hope You Feel Appreciated came from Thoughtful Branches stamp set. I also used some some of the new Designer Series paper. I forgot what that, just a sec. It is the Gathering Together 12 by 12. I used this for several of the projects. I just thought it was a really pretty paper, and it had several designs that I could choose from to use. And it has like a gold metallic in several of these pages. So that one is still available. And then the other retired product is the 23 to 25 in color dots. I still had a bunch of those, and I wanted to use those because they went with some of the colors, or they look like they went with the colors that I was using. So over on my blog at Diane's Blue Hearts and Butterflies.com is the dimensions that I included for all of the parts and pieces, so you don't have to write them down, but I will go over those. Oh, I also forgot, I did use on the label that I created the Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch, and I used that for cutting the edges. So let me go through this. So I have an early espresso piece that is 5 1/4 by 8 1/2. I scored that in half in landscape at 4 1/4 to create the card base. I have for the outside, the crushed curry is 4 1/2 by 3 3/4, and that will go on the front. And then the Very Vanilla, I use Very Vanilla. If your paper that you choose, Designer Series paper, is white, you could use white. It works well with either one. So this is a 4 1/4 by 3 1/2 that will layer on there. And then the inside piece is 5 1/4 by 4. And I just made it the same color as this. And that's what I stamped my inside greetings. The strip of Designer Series paper is 4 inches by 3/4 inches because I wanted it to be able to glue onto this side of that there. And then I have another new product that I did use, and it's the Earthen Toned Metallic Sheets. You get 3 of these 12 by 12 shiny metallic sheets, and that's what I used. And I cut it at 3 1/2 by 1 inch, and then I did the Lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch on each end. Now, the embossing that we're going to be doing, when you are using a shiny metallic paper or a vellum or a window sheet or anything that you are doing any kind of stamping on with the Versamark, you have to be very careful and lift it straight up and down and not rock or move it, because it will slide fairly easy on that. So I'm going to use the Stamp and Pierce mat on underneath so that I can get a very good image. And then I also use an embossing buddy. I think there is one in the heat embossing kit that is available in the catalog, or you can find them at other retailers. And it's good to use this because we leave behind oils and stuff from our skin on these things, and that we don't want the embossing powder to adhere to that. So I am using clear on the vanilla piece, and then I'm using gold on this earthen toned piece. So I'm going to ink it up with Versamark ink. Versamark ink is kind of a, it stays wet longer, and so it tends to cling better to the embossing powders, and you have a little bit more time before it actually dries up. So I'm just going to stamp this in the center of that very vanilla piece, and then it will leave the image of the trees. And you have a little bit of time because it, like I said, the Versamark is, it takes a while for it to dry. And you just pour the embossing powder on this, and then you just kind of shake that off. Make sure that you can kind of take and hold it against the light and see that it got everywhere. And you want to just kind of tap it to make sure you get your stuff off. Then the excess just goes right back into this. You just don't use very much of this when you are using it. So this does last a long time, and you can use it for so many different things. So the words are thinking of you, and I'm going to, again, ink that up with the embossing, the Versamark ink, and then I'm going to, it's crooked on my block, but I can see through this one because it is a photopolymer stamp. And I just wanted to make sure it goes straight up and down. And then I will put the gold embossing powder on this one. And the metallic paper does tend to stick a little more than the regular cardstocks. But I found that having a little bit of the flakes of gold didn't bother me. If it does bother you, you can use a fine paintbrush to kind of help wipe that off. And again, just pour your excess back into your container. And then you will be able to take these and use the heat tool. Let me get mine real quick. This is one of the most fun things that I learned from in the very beginning of my Stampin' Up! Journey or card making journeys, was embossing, because it is so much fun, and it's like magic and everything when it starts turning the metallic color, or in this case with the trees, it'll be clear. So you'll see that it's not powdery anymore, it'll be clear. This will take just a little bit, and this is a little bit loud, I apologize. You want to get it a little bit warmed up before you start applying it, because you'll want that heat to help turn that. And you can see it's kind of, I hope that you can see, it kind of turns fairly quickly. Once it turns the metallic color or the clear, you can move on, because you don't want to hold it too long, because it can burn the embossing powder and it loses some of that shiny. I hope that you could hear me. So those have turned. You don't want to do them too much, because it can actually burn it and turn it not to be quite so shiny. So this is the, and I saw a demonstrator one time make these. It creates kind of a heat barrier so that you don't burn stuff. So I created those for my studio. And so I have these pieces, and this one is ready to go on the card. But this one, we're going to use some inks and be able to do some rubbing. And that's what creates that background. It's the coloring that we do on it. And so I'm using crumb cake, pumpkin pie, crushed curry, and shaded spruce. Some of these may be retired, but they were the colors that I used. So when you're using this technique with rubbing, you don't want to apply this directly on there after you've put some ink on it, because it does kind of it'll leave more of a, like a dot. So you want to kind of rub it a little bit off and then keep applying. Start with a smaller amount first. You can always build up. You just don't want it to be too dark. Trust me, you won't be happy with it if you get it too dark all at once, because it looks kind of smudgy. And I'm just applying a light pressure and kind of moving around to some different spots. It's not showing up a whole lot, I'm sure, on camera yet, but I can see a little bit on the paper for my view. And then you can always add more color, little bits here and there. So let me get pumpkin pie. And again, didn't want to come on too strong. I still had a little bit too much, so it did kind of make a splotch. So you just want to kind of practice and gauge how much you want on there, what do you want it to look like, and where you might want these colors to come in. And crushed curry, I'm going to do that next. Shaded spruce. Oh, that one had a really dark spot. Just want to kind of come in where you think you want it. And it looks kind of a mess. That's where I put a little bit too much again, so I wouldn't be happy too much. But you know, people that get these cards, they're not going to know, and the way that you had envisioned or you thought it should look or whatever, and they're going to just see a wonderful work of art and be really appreciative, especially that you took the time to think about them and share your talents with them. I'm going to add a little bit more of the yellow, the crushed curry. And I'll come back in with a little bit more the pumpkin pie. And a little bit more of the crumb cake. And I think I'm going to go back in a little bit darker with that. Put some down here at the bottom. So it looks a little muddled mess right now, but the magic kind of also happens when you take a tissue, it can be a towel or whatever, and you just kind of rub over your embossed image, and that ink comes off of the embossed image, and those trees really pop out, and that's what you end up with. So let me move these things out of the way, and then put this together. I always want to make sure my inks are closed so they don't dry out. And I will move that out of the way. And bring my pieces back over here. And of course I forgot my tape runners. I don't know where my tape runners went right off the bat, so let's just use some tear and tape because that will work. So I'm going to add a little bit of tear and tape to my little Designer Series paper strip. If all else fails and you have some type of adhesive that works for you. A lot of people like the white Tombow glue. I am not great with using it. I end up using way too much and getting it everywhere, so it's not one that I use very often unless I'm using kind of an embossed image, a full embossing folder, because sometimes the glue runners, tape runners, actually tear because the paper has been, the fibers have been kind of weakened where it's been stretched. And so sometimes if you're using the tape runners, they actually will break. So, and of course I'm running out right now with that. Let me grab another roll. I have to find my tape runners before I do my next video. I do have a blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com, and I have several projects. This particular class that I had this project at, I had 5 different things. It was a come and go event, and the people could sign up for whichever ones they wanted, however many they wanted, and it was just a come at when you're available or when you're ready. Oh, I hope I'm not getting that everywhere. Have some bigger tear and tape. Using what I could reach. And it's sometimes good to take and burnish with your bone folder because it helps that glue stick down. And then when you peel the paper backings, they peel a little easier. Sometimes I find that is helpful. And I will tear these off. And then I can insert this inside the card, just leaving an even border all the way around. And then I will adhere these together. Now I am going to use dimensionals to pop up the label, the sentiment label, so that it gives the front of the card a little bit of dimension. If you want, you could add some linen thread or some type of bow if you want, as well as the gems, which I've got to get some of those out here. Put some tape on the back of this. And yes, this one is not, this is a whiter tear and tape that I had for some other project. And it's not the one that Stampin' Up! Sells. And then this one goes in the center of this. And then I will use the dimensionals on the back of here. And I'm going to use 3 because I know that these are going to be in an envelope and they'll get kind of pressed down. Tear the backings off. And you can put it wherever you want. I'm kind of putting it where you can still see the tree trunks. And then I will take 3 of these adhesive backed gems and stick them on the card front. I just use the take your pick tool with the piercing tool attachment on it. And then you have a really cool card that shimmers in the sunlight. So I hope that you will go over and view my blog at dianesblueheartsandbutterflies.com. And if you like any of the these techniques or anything, I hope that you will shop with me. Also, if you will like the videos and share them, that helps my channel to grow so that I can continue to keep my channel going. And then also, if you want to see more of what I do, then you could click the subscribe icon, and or you subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon, and then it'll notify you when I upload another video. And I try to do these fairly often, although the last couple of years since I got sick and changed out my home and a lot of other projects came up, I haven't been doing it monthly like I was before, but I do have a lot of other older projects that you could go and view on my blog as well. I appreciate you taking your time to share your time with me. Thank you.